And the 5 essentials are maximizing your mind, your nutrition, your nerve supply, your exercise, and minimizing your toxins. Those are the 5 essentials, and they all have to do with lifestyle, how we're living our life. But the researchers have found that if you follow those things the best that you can, that's the fountain of youth. It makes us live longer, it makes us live healthier and happier. Our quality of life is better. Okay? So, let's talk about a myth. Anybody ever seen the show Mythbusters? We're going to play that. Okay, I've got several myths we're going to bust tonight as we go along here. So Mythbuster number 1. Heart disease, cancer, and the misery that go along with these, because these are horrible things and cause a lot of misery for the people that get them and their families and friends. Heart disease, cancer, and the misery that goes along with it are normal with aging. How many of us think that? Of course, nobody's going to raise their hand because they know we're playing Mythbuster, right? So this must be a myth. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of people think that, not only in this room, but in our entire society, that these things are normal with aging. Oh yeah, you know, he got cancer, he got heart disease, but he was old, right? I mean, he was in his 70s or he was in his 80s. He was old, right? Well, the truth is that heart disease and cancer are very common in North America, Mexico, United States, Canada. They're very common, but they are not normal. And there is a difference. I want you to understand there's a difference between something that's common and something that's normal. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, all right? So let's go back and look at the United States again versus Okinawa, Japan. If it's true that these things are just common with age, then the Okinawans should be the same, right? If we get more cancer and heart disease as we get older, then so should they, right? Well, look at this. Older Okinawans, 1% of older Okinawans die from heart disease and cancer. 1% of the older population over there dies from heart disease and cancer. Look what it is in North America. 84% of us die from cancer or heart disease. Okay? And you might say, well, maybe the Okinawans don't live as long as we do. Well, that's not true either. That's nonsense. The Okinawans are living well into their hundreds. There was a news article right here about how they hit 28,000 people in their small little country that are over 100 years old. Okay, so it's not like we're outliving them, and that's why this number is the way it is. They're actually outliving us, and only 1% of them are dying from heart disease and cancer. You might say, well, what do they die of? We all have to die of something, right? Well, remember an old thing that you used to hear, natural causes? You almost never hear that anymore. Does anybody ever hear of somebody dying of natural causes anymore? It's always cancer or heart attack or stroke, right? Well, natural causes just means that you finally lived out your life. Your DNA couldn't replicate your cells any longer, and your organs just stopped working. That would be dying of natural death, not cancer, not heart disease. All right, Mythbuster number 2. The older you get, the fatter you get. All right? Again, how many of us think that one? Again, nobody raised their hands, right? But again, that's a great excuse a lot of us like to use. Oh yeah, I know I'm overweight or I've put on a lot of pounds throughout the years, but I'm old. I'm older. You know, we're all supposed to put on weight as we get older. Our metabolism slows down when we get older, right? So it's normal that we put on some weight. Well, again, the truth is, gaining weight as you get older is very common in the United States, but again, not normal. Let's look at ourselves compared to the Okinawans, all right? I'm not going to explain a lot of this graph, and I don't want you to get confused by it. I'm just going to point out a couple simple things, all right? On the bottom, on this row, it talks about age. So the farther up we go, the older we get. And this one talks about how much we weigh, all right? So the higher it goes, the fatter we are, is one way to think about it. Here's where we are in the United States. In our 20s, we're kind of right on the borderline between normal and overweight, all right? As we hit our 30s, we are overweight, and it just keeps climbing pretty much the rest of our life. It tails off a little bit there towards the end. But for the most part, overweight most of our entire lives, and it grows most of the time. If you look at the Okinawans eating a traditional Okinawan diet, this is the line that they follow, okay? In their 20s, they start way down here, and it decreases the older they get. So if you're going to tell me that gaining weight is just a natural thing that happens with age? Nonsense. Why don't they increase their weight with age? Because they eat better than we do. All right? Mythbuster number 3. You guys sick of the game yet? Mythbuster number 3. Well, my mom and dad had heart disease, and so will I. So why should I change my diet? Right? A lot of us think that it's genetics, right? Well, my mom and dad or my grandma and grandpa or my brothers and sisters, they're fat, so I'm going to be fat. They had cancer, so I'm going to get cancer. Or whatever it is. The list goes on and on, right? We think that we're kind of doomed if we've inherited those types of genetics. And again, the truth is, it's not your genetics. It's how you live your life. And there's a lot of people in this room, you probably won't say anything, but you won't believe me. You'll want to fight me on it. There's a lot of people that want to fight this because, for a long time we've thought a lot of it is genetics. And I'm not saying genetics doesn't play a role. Yes, you can be predisposed to something if you have the genetics for it. Let's talk about breast cancer, for example. If your parent, your mom, your grandma, whoever it was, had breast cancer and you carried the gene for that, yes, that does predispose you to getting breast cancer. But you need to understand that the most recent research and the best research in science that's been done on genetics, and if you're interested, look up a guy by the name of Bruce Lipton. He's a PhD who does this research, the most recent research. Bruce Lipton, he has discovered through his work that your genetics can be turned on and turned off. Okay? Think of your genetics as a blueprint. It's the blueprint for your life, for how you're going to turn out, okay? But whether or not that particular blueprint gets written has to do with the 5 essentials, how you live your life. You can do all the wrong things that will turn on that cancer gene, and then guess what? You'll get cancer too, just like your mom, just like your grandma. Or you can take control of your life and live the right way and not turn on the gene. Keep the gene turned off. And guess what? It never expresses itself. It never writes the blueprint. You don't ever get cancer. It's not your genetics. 5% of it's genetics. That's what the research says. So that should be empowering to you to realize that majority of your health has to do with how you live your life, which you are 100% in control of. Okay? All right. Keep on trucking. Cancer, heart disease, and genetics. We really already covered this. Again, the research says 5% is genetics, 95% how you live your life. Move on. So it's all about lifestyle. We need to realize that we make our own decisions. Which road are you going to travel? Are you going to travel the road to the couch? Or are you going to travel the road to the gym? Because it's going to make a difference, and it's up to you. So let's talk about Maximize Living nutrition plans. Okay? So what Maximize Living is, it's a company that's dedicated itself to health and wellness. And this chiropractic office is a part of Maximize Living. We use a lot of their resources to be able to teach to you guys. That's how I get information about the latest research, the latest products that we should be using for your health. I use them as a resource. When I say Maximize Living, think of them as basically the gurus in health. They know there's nobody better than them when it comes to knowing how to live healthy, being proactive, preventing things naturally, okay? And they've come up with some nutrition plans that again are based on the most recent science and research. How many of you guys watch Dr. Oz? Right? I mean, he's one of the fastest growing popular shows in natural health care. Pay attention. After you listen to my talk tonight, start paying attention to how many times you hear the same thing that I say on Dr. Oz. Okay? He had a guy on just the other day. I can't remember his name. You remember his name? The doctor who was on there? Mercola. Dr. Mercola. He had a guy on Dr. Mercola. We get a ton of our information from Dr. Mercola. And he has a great website and he does a ton of research. You can go to Mercola.com and look at this. But he was on Dr. Oz just within the last 2 weeks or so. And Dr. Oz is great. I mean, he's trained as a heart surgeon, okay? So Dr. Oz even has a long ways to go in really knowing and understanding true natural health care, because he wasn't brought up in that type of environment. He was brought up as a heart surgeon. He learned how to treat you after the problem already happened, right? But he's doing a great job in trying to learn more and more about natural health care and bringing on the experts and getting the word out to people on how to prevent these things and do things naturally, which is awesome. So keep watching him, all right? And pay attention to see how many things I say that you hear on his show. So your health is going to cost you one way or another. You're going to pay for your health one way or another. It was on the cover of Time magazine, the real cost of cheap food. The reason that this slide is on here, and I want to talk to you about it for a second, is that, again, when it comes to being healthy or losing weight or whatever it is, we all like to have excuses, right? We like to come up with reasons why not to do something, why it makes sense to us not to do it. And over again, I'll always hear the argument, it's too expensive to eat healthy, right? Fruits and vegetables, produce, it's too expensive. And my goodness, if I want to go organic, that's even way more expensive. And we live on a budget and I can't afford it and blah, 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 right? I hear you and I feel for you and I understand people are on tight budgets and it does matter. But it's time we wake up and we smell the coffee, all right? Because your health is going to cost you one way or another. You can either pay a little bit more for healthy food to help prevent disease and keep yourself healthy, or you can wait and pay in the back end on medical expenses, doctor visits, prescription drugs, surgeries. And if you think that's going to be cheaper than buying organic produce, you're dead wrong. Dead wrong, okay? So, just understand that it's worth it. Okay, yeah, it costs a little bit more to eat healthy. I'm not going to lie about it, but it's worth it. And we just have to think long term. We get so short-sighted thinking, it costs me this many more pennies today, but we don't realize how many thousands of dollars it's saving us over a lifetime. And we have to think long term here. We all want to be around a long time, right? Good quality of life, be around a long time. We need to return back to the natural order. And that's really what these Maximized Living nutrition plans are centered around. We need to get away from all of the technology that's been done to our food, right? All of the genetically modification of our foods, all of the spraying with pesticides and herbicides to try to use technology to keep the bugs away so that we can have more food. We need to get away from that. All the processing, all the chemical processes that these foods go through now so that they have longer shelf life and you can sell more products, right? They taste better. All those things are geared towards making more money for somebody, but guess what they're doing to your health? Putting it in the toilet, right? Remember, where are we at in terms of obesity? We're number 1. Where are we at in terms of health? We're 37th. This is why, folks. We need to get back to the natural order, eating things that occur naturally in nature. One of the best rules of thumb, and you can't always go by this, right? So you can't quote me on it. But one of the best rules of thumb to go by when you're deciding whether or not to eat something, ask yourself this. Could I go out and find this occurring naturally in nature? An apple. Could I go find an apple tree and pick an apple? You bet I could. Can anybody go find a French fry tree or a potato chip tree? No, you can't, right? Yeah, those things were derived from natural products, but they're no longer those natural products. They've been heavily processed. You can't go find a potato chip tree. So we need to get back to a more natural order. The first plan we're going to talk about is the core plan, okay? And you see this little O symbol because any of the stuff that we talk about or that you see, we're going to talk about, is that okay for the core plan or is it going to be a different plan, which we'll talk about. So if you see the O, that means, yeah, that's a good food that would fit the core plan, okay? The core plan is basically like your bare essentials, okay? This is a plan that everybody should be on as a bare minimum because what this plan is, it's just healthy principles for eating, right? I'm not trying to give you all a strict diet plan saying you have to follow this, right? We're not robots. What I'm going to teach you are some simple scientific principles of nutrition. We call it the core plan. So let's talk more about it. The most damaged foods in the SAD diet, the Standard American Diet, are our macronutrients.